Hi, my name's Tim Rath, and I'm the editor of the Tartan magazine here at Alma College. And today we have a unique story to share. It's always wonderful at the college when we have stories of a child going to the same school as their parents did. And sometimes we're lucky enough we're able to share stories of a child going to the same school as their grandparents did. So a three-generation story. Um, I'm not sure that we have had a story like this before in the history of Alma College, where we have four generations of of, um, of family members going to Alma. But that's exactly what happened this fall when we welcomed Claire Williams to our campus. She is the fourth generation of the Williams family to attend Alma College. And today we're lucky enough to not only be joined by Claire, who I believe is joining us from the city of Alma, but also her parents, Keith and Missy, who actually met at Alma College. They're joining us from Brooklyn, Michigan, in Jackson County, about an hour and a half south of us. And we're also lucky enough to have Chuck Williams joining us from upstate New York, where he lives. Welcome to all of you. I'm so pleased that you're able to join us today.
Great, glad to be here.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. So I'd actually like to start this with a discussion of someone who's no longer with us. Chuck, that would be your father, Clarence.
Right.
He was a member of the graduating class of 1922. And, interestingly enough, with what we're dealing with in our current moment, the COVID-19 pandemic, he joined us during the period of the flu pandemic in 1918. So an interesting bookend there. Chuck, he's a native of the Thumb area. Is that correct?
Right.
Yes.
Born in the little town of Tyre, which no longer exists, I understand.
Now, I understand that not only was he quite a student, but he was also quite an athlete. I went back into yearbooks and found out that he was a 4-year baseball player,
Right.
and very, very good as I understand it.
He had a nickname of Slingshot.
I saw that in the in the yearbook as well. They called him Slingshot. I trust that they owed it. He must have had a great throwing arm. I don't know if you know what position he played on the field. But...
Well, he played shortstop for 2 years and left field for 2 years.
That would make sense. Positions that require a good throwing arm. So he was a member of the 1922 MIAA Champion Scots team. He was elected to the college's Hall of Fame, and he was even courted by the Detroit Tigers. Chuck, can you tell us this story? Because I find it remarkable.
Well, as I understood it, he did play a game down in, I think it was at Briggs Stadium at that time.
Wow.
And I don't know if he had an offer, but there was something like that, but it didn't match what a teacher could get at that time.
And he was he was going to school to become a teacher, as I understand it. And of course, it's funny because you think about it nowadays with baseball players. If they make it to the bigs, then a multi-million-dollar salary is guaranteed. To say nothing of a teacher's salary. So how the times have changed, right?
Right. And his best offer came back in Montour Falls,
Okay.
New York, here, just outside of Ithaca,
Okay.
where Cornell is.
Okay.
And it was at a prep school type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the best offer he had. So that was a 500 and some mile, quote, migration from Alma
Right.
to New York. At that time, that was something.
Yeah, an individual moving from Michigan to upstate New York. Now he was a very successful teacher, as I understand.
Yes.
He retired after a 40-year career. Can you tell me a little bit about how he never forgot his roots, because that's wonderful. In fact, he convinced a number of his students to make the reverse trip from New York to Alma.
Right. Well, he uh, teaching, and then even during the Depression, in the 1930s, he sent several students that managed to get to Alma,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them was a real good friend of Charlie Skinner, the my science or chemistry teacher.
Okay.
So, and then a couple of good athletes came out at that time.
Okay.
A fellow named Carl Davis, and immediately after the war,
Mm-hmm.
there was three of us together came out in the fall of 1947,
Mm-hmm.
and then followed by several more each year.
Right. So in addition to all of these other students that he recruited to come to Alma College, by the way, it's believed that he recruited more than 150 of his students to go from New York to Michigan.
I could name a lot of them, but not all of them, maybe. But
I find it remarkable. Many of them look to him as a role model on account of the fact that he's a teacher. So often, teachers are the role models in our lives. Of course, he convinced you, Chuck, to make that trip, and so you came on board to Alma, um, and just became so involved in it. Can you tell me some of your memories of attending Alma? I suppose it was in the very late 1940s and early 50s, that post-war period.
yeah, the fall of '47, I came out there.
Sure.
Keith now has my father's scrapbook, which is one of those oversized ones, which was about 4 inches thick. And there's one very similar to it in the alumni office.
Hmm.
So he used that as a tool to talk the students into, says, here's what Alma is. And he flipped the pages and
That's
and showed everything. So they knew pretty much what they were getting into, 500 and some miles away.
Sure. Indeed. Indeed. When you came on board, I pulled up your yearbook, Chuck. You were a math major.
Yes.
You were student council president, and 4 years. You didn't play baseball, but it seems you played track and cross country for 4 years.
Each,
Tell me about your experience throwing the javelin. We have that anecdote in the in the Tartan, and I find it interesting.
Well, I was not the biggest of guys. I was a 6 foot, 150 pounds. And the javelin throwers, my freshman and senior year, were those guys that were a little over 6 foot and over 200 pounders. And that was just sort of the thing that if you were big, that's what you did. Small, you do something else.
Right, but you were pretty good at the javelin.
So my junior year, those guys had gone, and we were up at Central Michigan,
Okay.
Mount Pleasant, and we had no javelin throwers. So I just picked it up and threw it. And there's a fella from Auburn here, New York, that happened to be at the meeting. He was also a fraternity brother. And he was talking with my father before I had a chance to. So I just happened to win the event up there at Central.
Yeah. I have here that you took third in the entire MIAA conference at
Right, that year, yeah.
yeah.
So I had a good arm. I could throw a baseball. So
very good.
whatever.
Chuck, what does it mean to you that that we have 4 generations at the college? That your granddaughter, I suppose, goes to the same school over here in Michigan that your father did.
Right. Well, sort of every 25 years, basically. uh, the the campus and
Uh,
everything else has changed
mhm.
through for each of those 25 years.
Sure.
So uh, we had one new building on campus. I call it new building. That was the chapel, and the rest were pretty much what my father had had. I lived my first semester in Pioneer Hall,
Hmm.
which disappeared, and we ate uh, our meals in Wright Hall, and
And times have changed.
times have changed.
Indeed, indeed. So, Keith, you can feel free to jump in here, but as I understand it, Chuck, when you were a young father, you would frequently return back to campus for homecoming, and you would take your son, whom you had with your wife Nancy. Keith, is that correct?
Right.
Yeah,
We at that time we lived in Michigan,
I see.
both Muskegon and uh, Midland.
Okay.
Midland first, and then Muskegon. So it was quote convenient to drop over and see my friends and introduce the school to him.
Sure, sure. I understand you later moved back to upstate New York, but in the
Yes.
meantime, you were a little bit closer to the Alma area. Keith, can you tell me how you felt about being on the campus of Alma College as a boy? We shared an anecdote in the Tartan that was just lovely
Yep.
about your experience with the football team that I love to.
Yeah, we were growing up in Midland,
Hmm.
and you know, quite a few times my grandfather would come from New York, and then we would all go over as a family to Elma for homecoming.
Hmm.
And I can distinctly remember eating breakfast or lunch, whatever it may have been, with the football team in the same room in proximity of it, and just thinking that it was like they were professionals. They're just so much bigger than I was at a 10-year-old age, and that was kind of awe inspiring. And that how my dad and grandfather both knew a ton of people around campus, so it was just like a home away from home. It was very reassuring.
And it's kind of cool that they were that open with you, to sit
Mhm.
down at breakfast with a 10-year-old boy, right?
Yeah,
So that boy grew up, and it came time to pick a college. At this
yeah,
time, I believe you were in upstate New York, and a number of your classmates were headed to the East Coast. There's a number of East Coast schools, but you decided to come back to Alma. What
correct.
what went into to that decision?
They accepted me at an early decision.
That'll do it.
And yeah, I was looking at some schools out in Vermont, northern Michigan, and Michigan, and and college decision at that time to decide on what college to decide in the 70s was a whole lot different than it is now. It wasn't as competitive, I would say. You just kind of you picked a college, and there wasn't a whole lot of marketing to it. There wasn't a whole lot of come to our school. And so you kind of had to seek out the colleges rather than the colleges seeking out you. We never got any mass emails or tweets or mass mailings sent to us. So it was a college I was very familiar with, so I was comfortable with it. And I went to a very small high school in upstate New York, so I knew I didn't want a big college university scene for my undergraduate. So it was just the perfect fit. And so that's how I ended up back at Elma.
That's interesting. It's a different tract from
Yeah.
what happens today. It's also a little bit different from the way that your now wife, Missy Linehan, came to choose Alma. You are, of course, from Adrian,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
you,
Right.
you have a college in the city of Adrian,
Right.
Adrian
Right.
College, that happens to be in the MIAA along with us. Why did you choose to come to Alma? I suppose it was in the early 1980s, Missy.
Yes, correct. Well, I knew I wanted to go to a smaller school.
Sure.
So I did, I visited many of the MIAA schools in addition to a few others.
Hmm.
And I had narrowed it down and applied. Um, I, I knew I didn't want to stay in Adrian. I wanted to go away, a little bit away. um, and at the time, I thought I wanted to be a social worker.
Okay.
And Alma was the only MIAA school, but smaller school in the state of Michigan that offered bachelor's of social work.
Mm.
So they were the only one, and so that kind of, helped me make a decision that that's where I wanted to go. I didn't know of anyone who had attended, so, and I liked the campus. I mean, I thought, okay, I'll go there. um, and then I took a class in social work. And the thing was, is in my freshman year, I also took an education class.
Okay.
And at Alma, part of that, the very first class you took in education was a placement in the classroom. And really, that's a wonderful way to do it because,
Right.
sometimes kids get into the program and then decide this isn't what I want to do.
Right.
And as immediately when I walked into the elementary classroom, I knew that's where I belonged.
You
So,
had the exact opposite approach, which is that's wonderful. Yes, yes. So, Keith, you were ahead, a year ahead of Missy at the time. Um, Tell me what happened not too long after, I suppose, Missy came to college. It was 1981, right after Christmas break, correct?
right before
Just before Christmas
Thank,
break.
thank you.
Yep, our fraternity was having their Christmas formal, and we had some mutual friends. Missy and I did, although I didn't know Missy, but we met at kind of the fraternity's winter formal, and then started dating soon thereafter, and that was in 1981. And
Where was that first formal date?
that first formal date was at the
Big
old
boy.
Big Boy there in Elma. That was a huge excursion to leave Saga to go out to eat.
Wow.
So we
I
went to
even
the Big
remember
Boy.
the booth we sat in.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
I don't think that that big boy is with us any longer. Sorry to
No.
say, but it did remain for some time. Claire, please jump in here. Can you tell me how you came to get acquainted with this restaurant?
Well, okay, so we have a condo up north in Harbor Springs,
Okay,
and of course we have to go on 127 all the way up from home to Harbor Springs,
sure.
and there was a big boy sign, and every time we passed it, we would be reminded that that was the big boy where they had their first date.
That's right.
Every time.
That's lovely. That's lovely.
Yes, and we even took the girls there.
Yeah. Before it
with,
closed,
yeah.
we ended up
Oh,
having
wow.
one last dinner there.
Yeah, it was not too long ago that
No.
it, maybe 4 years ago, I don't know.
Wow, wow. Well, that's cool that you were able to go back so many times and experience that part of your history.
Mhm.
I kind of skipped ahead a little bit, but the two of you married in 1986. You had three daughters, and for what it's worth, from Alma, you both went on to have successful careers. Correct, Keith? You're the head of the topical book review company, which I understand did Clarence start that company?
Yes.
Yes, yes. And Missy, true to your experience in college, you ended up having a career as a fourth grade teacher, correct?
Yes, yes, 34 years. Yep.
Wonderful, wonderful. Um, what was your overall experience at Alma College like? Do you think? I mean, I'm sure that things have changed, but at the same time, some things have remained the same. Overall, I'm sure you had very good experiences. Otherwise, Claire wouldn't be with us, right?
Right,
Right,
right.
right.
Yeah, we had a wonderful experience. It was At that time, the new dorms really were the new dorms.
Yeah.
And the buildings, it is a totally different campus now than it was even when Missy and I were there just, 30, 40 years ago. Um, but it was smaller, but yet it still had that family feel. The professors were very engaging. In fact, Dr. Cornelius lived right next door to our fraternity house. Um, all 3 years when I lived in the fraternity house.
Wow.
So they were right there in the community with us. It was nice because it was very self-contained, and they provided a lot of opportunities to do things, whether it was movie nights on Friday or Saturday. They always had something going on to keep you entertained. You didn't feel like you had to, although, occasionally we did run up to Central or down to State. But for the most part, we could stay right there and be just as happy and entertained. And we got a great education from it. The professors, it's a lot more rewarding to be taught by the actual professor than a teacher's assistant. And that's one great thing that I take away from it. And even back then, the trend now is to go to smaller class sizes in these breakout rooms. But even back then, that was the case at Alma. It was small class sizes, and although we didn't have the fancy breakout rooms they have now, we just made do. So that's what I take away from it. I got a great education, and it's what laid the building blocks for a successful career.
I want to talk a little bit about the scholarships that were established. Missy, I understand that you developed a very close relationship with one of your professors. Can you tell me about those scholarships a little bit?
Okay, so when you're a senior, you do your student teaching.
Sure.
And so my supervising teacher, although I did have her for a class placement my junior year, but my supervising teacher was Joan Godfrey. Don and Joan Godfrey were both graduates of Alma College. And yeah, she was magnificent, absolutely magnificent. And she was able to help me out financially my senior year. And in fact, she even, they hosted a little open house gathering after I graduated at their home. She read in our wedding, reading, and kept in touch with me. But she was a great role model. A lot of things that I did in my classroom, I patterned after her. Just up until the very end, I just admired everything about her. And so, a few years ago, gosh, it's been maybe 7, 8, 9 years ago now. Keith said, it's time that we do something, give back, and honor them. And so that's what we did. And we took the 3 girls with us, and we went up there, and it was a wonderful time to be able to do it. Both Joan and Don were both there. Don has since passed away, but it was just So I still talk to her about every few months or so.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And Chuck, as I understand it, there's also a scholarship that is established in your father's name as well.
Right. As he passed away, we set that up, and then recently here we made it a joint one, so it would be worth more. And basically, it's for someone from Central New York, so Alma can have some diverse geographical base.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen every year, so
Sure.
it's spread around somewhere.
Sure, sure. Of course, it's in honor of those 150 some, folks that he helped bring to Alma College in the first place. So, Claire, I understand you have 2 older sisters. They went on to go to other colleges and universities. No, that's okay. They went
I
out
know.
to choose places that weren't Alba. But no, I mean, it was kind of an interesting moment when you came to attend Alma College, was it not? I mean, at least it was cool.
Yeah, it was definitely cool. Honestly, I don't know if one of my sisters would have gone here if I would have wanted to come here. But yeah, it definitely feels like home to me here.
They didn't put any pressure on you to go to Alma to continue their legacy or anything like that. It was all you.
My parents?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, there was a little, things here and there said, but overall, I knew that if it was my decision, to go where I wanted to go, and they supported me either way.
Wonderful. And tell me a little bit about that decision. You're of course a first year student here, but you came to college to do a few things specifically, as I understand it.
Mhm.
What are you involved with here at the college?
I am in the nursing program, and that's one of the things that drew me to Alma College was
That's
the
wonderful.
direct entry. And I am also on the cheer and stunt team.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. How are you enjoying your time here on campus? Of course, you know we're like I mentioned earlier, we're dealing with the effects of the pandemic, the bookends. It's certainly been, an interesting first year, has it not?
Yeah, it definitely has. It was really hard to adjust at first, but thankfully with the college's support, we are allowed to have contact in our sports, and I think that starting off the semester that way has really helped because you don't really get that contact anywhere else on campus, which is unfortunate, but I mean, it it's a pandemic, so it has to be done.
Sure, sure. How does it feel? I mean, you've heard your grandfather and your parents talk about how different the college was when they were attending. How do you feel being here? Do you ever have moments of like, wow, my great grandfather attended here? He walked on the sidewalk probably, or anything like that.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little crazy to think about,
Mhm.
but it's not something that I necessarily think about like every single day that, oh, like my parents were in the same building or whatnot. I think they like to reminisce on it a little more than me. But but yeah, it is really special to me, and yeah, I don't know, it's crazy.
That's cool. Keith and Missy, how do you feel about carrying on this legacy? 4 generations. That's 100 years now, and counting. Kind of cool, right?
It's very cool, just
Yeah.
the simple fact that the college has even been around that long and stayed as successful as it is a tribute to it. But it's really ironic because I look at the pictures from when my grandfather Clarence was there, and it doesn't look anything like it did when my father was there, and it doesn't look anything like it does when Missy and I were there now. And so, even though it's the same college, it is like totally 4 different generations of buildings, teachers, and facilities. And it's only going, getting better and better every year. And with the new kickoff of the library remodel, that's a perfect example because that was probably one of the last buildings that hadn't been remodeled since we were there, and it's going to get a total rehab, and it looks wonderful. The preliminary drawings do.
Indeed, it does. We're all really excited for
Yeah.
you here. Yes, indeed. I just want to thank everybody for their time today. We're thrilled to have Claire, Keith, Missy, and Chuck all with us, and thrilled for this continued support for Alma College for 100 years. Hope it continues. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.